The moment I fell, I felt silence, and I thought that was the end of my life. My name is Ethan Miles. I'm 38 years old, and I've spent the last decade chasing silence up the sides of mountains, hoping I'd finally find peace there. I didn't know that silence would one day find me first. I used to be a soldier, the kind who followed orders and ignored feelings. My brother Aaron was the opposite. Heart first, always talking about faith, always saying things like, "God's got us." He believed it right up until the explosion that took him away. I stopped believing the same day. After his death, I left the army, left my family, left everything. I told people I wanted freedom. What I really wanted was to disappear. Mountains became my excuse. Every climb felt like punishment wrapped in peace. You suffer, you survive, you repeat. That October morning in Colorado, the air was thin, sharp, the kind that burns your lungs but clears your thoughts. I set out before dawn, determined to reach the summit before the storm rolling in. Locals had warned me about early snow, but warnings are for people who still think they can die. Halfway up, the first gust hit, a whisper that grew teeth. I tightened the straps on my pack and pressed on. I've always believed pain was cleaner than regret. By noon, clouds had eaten the sun. The rock beneath my crampons turned slick, and every sound echoed like thunder waiting its turn. Still, I kept climbing. My pride said I could handle it, my heart said nothing at all. Somewhere around 2,000 meters, I stopped to rest. My breath came out in ragged white bursts. I reached into my jacket and pulled out my brother's dog tag. The metal was cold, but holding it made the world feel familiar again. "You'd hate this, huh?" I said to the wind. "You'd tell me to go home." The wind didn't answer, but I swear I heard him laugh. Quiet, like memory. Snow began to fall, light at first, then heavy. The mountain started to disappear behind a curtain of white. I thought about turning back, but the summit was so close. Just one more hour, I told myself. You've done worse. That's when the rope snapped. There was no warning, just a sharp crack, then nothing but air. I didn't scream. There wasn't time. The world went silent, not like peace, but like an eraser scraping across everything that ever was. For the first time in my life, I wasn't in control. Gravity decided for me. The moment I hit the ice, everything vanished. Light, sound, thought. Only silence remained. When I woke, there was no sky. I was wedged between rocks, my body half buried in snow. Pain flared in my ribs. I tried to move, but the mountain held me like a vice. For a long time, I didn't even try to call for help. Who would hear me out here? I'd wanted solitude, I got it. The cold crept in fast. My fingers stiffened, my lips cracked. Somewhere between panic and acceptance, I started talking to myself. "You did it, Ethan. You finally went too far." Then I thought of Aaron, his stupid grin, his calm voice. He used to say, "God talks loudest in the quiet." "Well," I whispered, "I'm listening." That's when I heard it. "Ethan." It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't the wind. It came from somewhere deeper, through me, not around me. I froze. My breath hitched. "Who's there?" No answer. Just the sound of snow shifting above, and that strange warmth blooming in my chest. "You're not alone," the voice said again. For a second, I thought maybe it was shock. Maybe my brain was dying, spinning comfort out of oxygen loss. But the warmth grew stronger, not weaker. It felt real. The darkness around me began to change. The black turned to deep blue, then to gold. I wasn't seeing it with my eyes. It was inside me somehow, expanding like sunrise in reverse. Then came the words that cracked something open inside me. "You've been climbing the wrong mountain." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't speak. The light wrapped around me, not blinding, just steady. I felt my heartbeat slow. My mind quieted for the first time in years. And then, as sudden as it came, it was gone. I woke up under a sky washed clean by dawn. I was lying on a flat patch of snow, meters above where I'd fallen. My rope dangled far below, torn and frozen. I sat up, trembling. My legs hurt but weren't broken. My ribs ached but still moved with breath. Every explanation I tried to make collapsed under its own weight. Down the slope I saw movement. 3 hikers, bright jackets flashing in the morning light. I tried to call out, my voice cracked, but they heard. When they reached me, one of them stared like he'd seen a ghost. "We tracked your fall from down there," he said. "How the hell did you get up here?" I had no answer. They helped me stand. As we made our way down, I looked back at the ridge. A single beam of sunlight broke through the clouds, landing right on the spot where I'd woken up. I whispered, "I hear you." No one noticed. But I did, and I knew whatever had caught me, whatever had spoken, wasn't done yet. I thought that once they found me, everything would make sense. It didn't. It only got louder. The questions, the noise, the explanations that didn't fit. People said words like miracle and shock and lucky. None of them matched what I felt. I wasn't lucky. I was haunted. At the hospital, they ran every test possible. No broken bones, a few bruised ribs, mild hypothermia. The doctor kept shaking his head. "From that height? You shouldn't be here." I wanted to tell him about the voice, about the warmth, about waking up where I shouldn't have been. But how do you explain something that makes less sense when you put it into words? So I just said, "Yeah, I know," and stared out the window. The mountains looked smaller from the hospital bed. They weren't mountains anymore. They were walls keeping something sacred from spilling into the world. At night, when the nurses left and the machines hummed softly, the silence returned. Not the heavy kind from the ravine. This one felt alive. I closed my eyes, waiting for sleep. But what came instead was that same whisper from the storm. "Ethan." I didn't open my eyes. I just whispered back, "I'm listening." No answer. Just that pulse of warmth under my ribs, faint but real. I fell asleep to it. When I woke, sunlight poured across the sheets. The first thing I noticed was a single line of frost on the inside of the window, shaped like a handprint. I laughed quietly. Maybe coincidence, maybe not. After a week, they discharged me. I told the nurse I'd find my own way home. She looked worried but let me go. I needed space, noise, crowds, anything that didn't echo. I drove back to my apartment in silence. The place felt like a museum of who I used to be. Empty bottles, climbing gear, dust. I sat on the floor, still wearing the hospital wristband, and for the first time in years I prayed. It wasn't pretty. No, dear God. Just a whisper. What now? The room stayed quiet, but something inside me shifted. Days blurred. The body healed. The mind didn't. I'd close my eyes and see flashes. Snow. Light. My brother's face. Sometimes I'd wake up gasping, not from fear, but from longing. I missed the peace more than the adrenaline. A month later, I went back to the mountain, not to climb, just to see. The rescue team had cleared the area, but I found the ledge where I'd fallen. The snow was gone, spring was coming. I stood there for a long time, watching the wind move over the peaks. "What do you want from me?" I said aloud. The wind carried my voice away. No answer. But deep in that stillness, I felt something that wasn't emptiness. It was invitation. I left a small piece of rope tied around a rock, a marker, proof that I'd been saved there. Back in town, I tried to live normally again. I even met with some old army friends for coffee. They joked about my angel on duty. I laughed with them, but later that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe they weren't far off. One of them, Tom, noticed. "You look different, man," he said. "Different how?" "Like someone who stopped fighting." I didn't know what to say. Over the next weeks, I started writing. Just a few lines at first. Memories, dreams, questions. The notebook filled quickly. Writing felt like talking to the silence that saved me. One night, I dreamed of the fall again, but it didn't end the same. Instead of crashing, I kept floating, suspended in light. My brother's voice came through it, soft, clear. Don't waste it. When I woke up, I knew what he meant. I called my mother for the first time in years. Her voice cracked when she heard mine. Ethan, are you okay? I think so, I said. I just wanted to hear you pray again. We talked for an hour. She cried. I did too. Before hanging up, she said, maybe that mountain wasn't trying to kill you. Maybe it was trying to wake you up. That line stayed with me for days. I began visiting a veteran support group in town. I didn't plan to speak, just to listen. The first few meetings were awkward, the kind of silence filled with pain people don't know how to name. But one night, a guy told a story about almost taking his life, and something inside me cracked. I told them about the fall, about the voice, about waking where I shouldn't have been. I didn't talk about religion. I just said, something met me in the silence. It didn't yell. It whispered. No one spoke for a while. Then one man nodded. I've heard that voice too, he said. That night, walking home, the city lights looked different, like stars turned upside down. Every sound, the wind between buildings, tires on wet pavement, felt alive. I stopped at a crosswalk and looked up. Rain began to fall, soft and warm. I closed my eyes, let it hit my face, and whispered, still listening. The days started to find rhythm again. I worked odd jobs, fixed things, kept to myself. But I noticed people started finding me, neighbors needing help, strangers asking directions, old friends reaching out. It was subtle, like the universe testing if I'd learned to look beyond myself. One afternoon, while repairing a roof, I felt that same warmth again, low in my chest. I froze. There was no danger, no reason for it, just peace. And then a single thought surfaced. This is what it means to live. That evening, I opened the notebook and wrote, I didn't survive the fall to keep living the same way. I didn't know it then, but that sentence would become everything. I didn't know it then, but that sentence would become everything. A week later, I was walking by the river that cuts through town when a small group was gathered near the bridge. Someone had tried to jump. The police were talking softly, holding out a hand. For a long minute, nobody moved. Then, almost without thinking, I stepped closer. I didn't say anything dramatic. I just said, hey, I know what it's like to fall. The man looked at me, startled, tears streaking his face. You don't know, he said. I do, I answered, and I'm still here. Something in his eyes shifted, fear loosening its grip. The officers pulled him back. I didn't stay for thanks. I just walked away shaking, realizing maybe that's what the whisper had meant by something to do. That night I sat at my desk, hands trembling, trying to write down what had happened. The words didn't sound like mine anymore. They sounded lighter, steadier. For the first time since the mountain, I slept without dreams. Days turned into weeks. The color of everything began to change. Morning light through my window no longer felt like intrusion. It felt like invitation. I'd catch myself smiling at nothing, humming songs I didn't remember learning. But peace is strange. It tests you. One afternoon, I got a letter from an old comrade's widow. She'd heard about my accident and wrote, "You were always the one who survived. I hope you found a reason." Her words reopened every scar I thought I'd closed. That night, I drove aimlessly until I found myself back at the base of the mountains. The peaks were invisible behind storm clouds. I parked and sat in the dark, gripping the steering wheel. "Why me?" I said out loud. "Why save me and not him?" The storm answered with thunder, but behind it was something quieter. Rain tapping on the windshield, rhythmic, almost like breathing. I leaned back and whispered, "If you're still here, help me forgive you." It wasn't blasphemy, it was honesty. The rain stopped. A break opened in the clouds, and a beam of moonlight hit the hood of my truck. It wasn't enough to explain anything, but it was enough to breathe again. In the weeks that followed, I started visiting the rehab center where the veterans group met. They asked if I'd talk about resilience. I said I didn't know much about that, but I could talk about surrender. The first time I stood in front of them, my hands shook worse than they had on the mountain. I don't know what you believe, I said, but something caught me when I fell. It didn't lecture me. It listened. And it's still listening. After the session, a young soldier approached. I've been trying to pray, but I don't think God hears me. I smiled. Then stopped trying to talk. Just sit still. He's better at silence than we are. He laughed softly. That's the first thing that's made sense to me in months. When I drove home that evening, I felt lighter than I had in years. The road curved through pines, headlights sweeping across mist. Somewhere between the bends, I heard it again. My name, faint, carried by wind. Not haunting, calling. I pulled over, stepped out, and looked up at the stars. I'm still listening, I said. And for a heartbeat, the air around me pulsed warm. Life didn't become perfect. Bills still came, work still failed, loneliness still knocked. But there was something under it all now, a current of peace that never left even when everything else did. Sometimes I'd wake before dawn and feel compelled to walk. One morning, the trail led me to a small chapel on the edge of town. The door was unlocked. I went in, sat at the back, and let the quiet wrap around me. There was no choir, no sermon, just the sound of wind through an open window. In that soft draft, I felt it again. The same presence, unchanged, patient. I didn't ask for anything, I just said, thank you. When I left, the sunrise caught the steeple and turned it gold. The world looked simple again. Months passed like that, quiet transformations stitched between ordinary days. I reconnected with people I'd pushed away. I apologized to my mother in person. I visited my brother's grave and finally said the words I couldn't at his funeral. You were right. I left a small stone from the mountain on the headstone. This is from where I met him, I whispered. On the drive home, a song came on the radio, one I hadn't heard since we were kids. My brother used to sing it off key just to make me laugh. I rolled down the window, let the wind carry the chorus, and felt like he was somewhere close, humming along. That night I dreamed again, but not of falling. I dreamed of climbing, not the mountain in Colorado, but a slope covered in light. Every step felt effortless. At the top stood a figure I couldn't see clearly, but the peace was unmistakable. A voice said, "You've already made it halfway. Keep walking." When I woke, tears soaked the pillow. I wasn't sad, I was grateful. From that day, I began each morning the same way, quiet, eyes closed, one breath at a time. Sometimes words came, sometimes not. But always, there was that faint reply somewhere beneath my heartbeat. You're not alone. I started volunteering with search and rescue. At first they thought I was crazy, a man who'd almost died in the mountains wanting to go back. But I wasn't chasing danger anymore. I was chasing redemption. The first rescue came during another storm. A teenager had wandered off a trail. The wind was brutal, snow slicing sideways. As I climbed toward the coordinates, I caught myself whispering the same prayer from that night in the ravine. Guide my steps. We found him hours later, shivering but alive. When I wrapped a blanket around him, he looked up at me and said, "I thought I heard someone calling my name." I smiled. Maybe you did. Driving home, soaked and exhausted, I felt that warmth again, stronger than ever. It filled the car, humming through the steering wheel, through the rain beating on the roof. That's when I finally understood the message that had followed me since the fall. You've been climbing the wrong mountain. It wasn't about rock or altitude, it was about learning to rise inside. The next week I stood at a community event sharing that realization. The mountain, I said, was never the problem. I was. The silence wasn't punishment, it was mercy. After the talk, a woman approached, holding her son's photograph. "He died climbing last year," she said quietly. "Your story makes me think maybe he wasn't alone." I placed a hand on hers. He wasn't. When she left, I sat in the empty hall for a while, the echo of voices fading into the hum of lights. I felt no spotlight, no triumph, just a deep, steady gratitude. That night I wrote the last line in my notebook. The mountain never ends, but neither does the voice. Outside my window, wind moved through the trees, whispering softly like breath between worlds. I closed the notebook, placed my brother's dog tag on top, and whispered into the quiet, "I hear you." The warmth answered, patient as always, a heartbeat beneath every sound. Months passed, but the feeling never faded. It didn't matter where I was, walking through town, fixing a roof, sitting alone at night. There was always a low hum beneath everything, like the echo of that voice living somewhere just under my heartbeat. I stopped looking for explanations. The questions that used to keep me awake no longer mattered. What mattered was what I did with what I'd been given. That spring, I received a message from the rescue team that had found me. They were planning a memorial for climbers who died that year and wanted me to speak. I almost said no. I didn't feel like a survivor. I felt like a man still learning how to live. But the whisper inside me said, "Go." The ceremony took place at the base of the same mountain. Families stood in a semicircle holding photos, candles, flowers. The air smelled of pine and melting snow. When my name was called, I stepped forward and looked up at the ridge where I had fallen. I used to think climbing was about conquering fear, I began. But fear isn't the enemy. Silence is. The kind that isolates you, that convinces you no one's listening. I paused, the wind moving gently through the crowd. Up there, when I thought I was dying, silence wasn't empty. It was full. And in that silence I heard my name. I still hear it. No one moved. Some cried quietly. I didn't preach, didn't explain. I just told the truth. If you've lost someone, know this. They weren't alone. None of us ever are afterward. People came to shake my hand, but I barely noticed. My eyes were fixed on the peaks, glowing gold in the setting sun. For the first time, the mountain didn't look like a threat. It looked like home. That evening, I climbed a short distance up a side trail and sat down facing the valley. I placed my brother's dog tag in the snow and said, "I carried your name for years. Now I think you carried mine." A breeze swept across the ridge, soft and warm. The snow glittered like fireflies. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Thank you." The next day, I started something new, a small group that met once a week in the community center. Not a church, not a club, just people who'd almost given up and somehow hadn't. Veterans, climbers, widows, strangers. We called it the Quiet Hour. We didn't preach, we listened, we told stories about the moment things could have ended, and didn't. Every meeting ended the same way. A few minutes of silence, each of us waiting for whatever voice we needed to hear. Sometimes that room felt like the ravine all over again. Dark, still, sacred. And in that stillness, I could almost feel him walking between us, unseen, but present. One evening after everyone left, I stayed behind, cleaning up coffee cups. The lights were low, the building nearly empty. I sat down in the front row and said quietly, "I don't know what comes next, but I'm still here." For a long moment there was nothing, and then that warmth returned, gentle as always. A whisper followed, steady and clear. "You still have something to do?" I smiled. I figured you'd say that. Outside, the night had turned clear. Stars spilled over the horizon. I walked home without hurry, every step lighter than the last. Days turned into seasons. The group grew. People brought friends, families, stories. Some came out of curiosity, others out of desperation. I learned that healing doesn't happen in a moment. It happens in the quiet between moments. On the anniversary of my fall, I hiked back up the mountain alone. Not to climb, not to test fate, just to thank it. The trail was steeper than I remembered. The air smelled like snow again. Halfway up, I stopped, turned toward the valley and breathed. I said, "I'm not afraid anymore." And for the first time, I meant it. At the spot where I'd been found, I built a small cairn of stones and tucked my brother's tag beneath the top rock. No ceremony, no words, just a gesture of gratitude. The sun broke through the clouds, light pouring down like a waterfall. I felt it wrap around me the same way it had that day when everything should have ended. I whispered, "I know you're here." The wind stirred the snow into a spiral, shimmering like breath. And somewhere in that shimmer, faint but undeniable, came the voice that had changed everything. "You're not alone." I stood there until the light faded, tears freezing on my cheeks, smiling through them. On the way down, I thought about all the people I'd met since the fall. The boy on the bridge, the soldiers in the support group, the mother at the memorial. Maybe the miracle wasn't just that I'd survived. Maybe it was that every time I told the story, someone else started listening to the silence too. Back in town, I walked into the quiet hall where the quiet hour met. The chairs were empty, the lights off. I sat down anyway. The stillness settled like a blanket. "This is enough," I whispered. "Whatever happens next, this is enough." The silence answered with peace. I closed my eyes and saw it all again. The mountain, the fall, the light that caught me before the ground could. And I realized the miracle wasn't the fall at all. The miracle was that even after the silence broke, it stayed. It lived in me. I smiled, breathed deep, and said one last time, "This was my close call."